All right, we are live. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Pamela Young, and we have with us Daniel Garcia Rodriguez. We have Cindy Mata, and we are part of New Sheriff Now Tarrant County. So, welcome everyone. And Daniel and Cindy, y'all can go ahead and unmute yourselves and chime in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Huge thank you, y'all. Thanks for joining and hanging out with us tonight to talk about some real stuff.
Yes. Thank y'all for being here. So we're just going to jump right in. Throughout the evening, we're just going to be here for 30 minutes. We want to keep this nice and short. We have a lot of information to share, but we can't do it all tonight. So we want to keep these segments short and digestible. So, all right, we'll get started. New Sheriff Now Tarrant County is a coalition of progressive organizers who believe it's high time that we had a sheriff who acknowledges the impact of mass incarceration and immigration enforcement on communities in Tarrant County. And in the face of the worst public health crisis in a century, COVID-19, we need a sheriff who chooses to act to save lives rather than pass the buck. We seek new leadership, transparency, and accountability in the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department this November. New Sheriff Now aims to uplift the voices of community members through people power and to advocate for the safety that all Tarrant County community members deserve. And so right now, Cindy, if you can kind of expound a little bit about what exactly it is that we want.
Thank you, Pam. Tarrant County needs a huge amount of change, but I think bottom line, what we see that is the most urgent need is that we need a new sheriff this November. So our intention is not only to address the role that the sheriff plays in our communities, but to demand real change for the people and from the sheriff. So our communities deserve a vision that advocates for real safety, for real reform, and real leadership. And we are planning to do this by uplifting the voices of community members through people power and shining truth to everything that is currently happening in Tarrant County Jail. So today we'll be sharing the platform of what New Sheriff Now seeks. So as I mentioned earlier, something that we see is a huge need is real safety that is guaranteed by the sheriff for Tarrant County and all of its residents. We want a sheriff that strives to foster productive relationships with our communities. We want a sheriff that will push to end discriminatory policies like the 287G agreement, that those programs are removed from Tarrant County. A sheriff that will aim to prioritize investing in our communities, that will ensure safe and sanitary jail conditions, that will end jail deaths and prevent overcrowding. And we need a sheriff that will invest in improving the mental health treatment of everyone who is currently being impacted by the criminal justice system. We know that jails have replaced mental health facilities and have become the largest mental health provider in America. So the sheriff has a major role in ensuring that they are advocating for better treatment of everyone who's currently going through the criminal justice system, that they are ensuring that they are advocating for proper training for officers who are engaging with people with disabilities and mental health illnesses. In addition to that, we also need real reform. The sheriff holds a great deal of power and influence, and the impact that the sheriff can have can either transform or affect our communities negatively. So the sheriff has a responsibility to use its influence to support real reforms, not false solutions to promote public safety. And they should be seeking guidance from community members. We know that people who are directly impacted should be part of the conversation, and having these productive relationships and seeking guidance from our community can only make Tarrant County safer and better. And lastly, we also need real leadership. The sheriff is responsible for operating huge responsibilities within Tarrant County. They are responsible for operating the Tarrant County Jail, for overseeing millions of tax dollars and interacting with residents while enforcing law. These roles, like I mentioned, have a huge amount of responsibility, and it's important that we have a sheriff that we can trust. In the past, we have seen how the sheriffs have had a history of abuse of power and a violation of civil liberties. The sheriff should be accountable to its voters and should ensure equal rights, should work towards ensuring human rights, and that they are being protected. So we need a sheriff that will demonstrate leadership through transparency, something that we haven't seen, accountability, fiscal responsibility, a sheriff that will be showing good moral character, who will take initiative for positive change, and who will respect all people. Thank you for sharing that presentation, Pam. Like I mentioned, we understand that in order to create that vision, we have the power to be able to, we need to start locally, and we can create change in immigration, in criminal justice operations and reforms. So there is power, like I mentioned, in changing what our local government looks like. The criminalization of our communities continues, and that is a direct threat to mass incarceration and to the pipeline to deportation. So the change we want doesn't stop after the elections. Beyond that, we hope to mobilize a unity in our communities, a unity in our Black and Brown communities, to seek transparency and accountability to ensure protection and safety of everyone in Tarrant County. So we need to pay attention to this race, because the impact that it will have will affect so many people. So the message that we can take today is that we have the power to unite, to create and transform a change that will free our people. And it starts with electing a new sheriff now, and the change that can have is going to be exponential.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Cindy. And just as a reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, you can drop them, or any comments, please put them in the comment section below, and we're going to get to them at the end of our 30 minutes here. So we want to hear from you. Also, a reminder, Election Day is on November 3rd. So we are not only voting for a new president on November 3rd, 2020, but we will be voting in a new sheriff in Tarrant County. So please get ready, tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word, get registered to vote if you are not registered to vote. You know, there are a lot of things going on right now with the pandemic and whatnot. But this election is happening, and we all need to be ready to take action, because lives are literally at stake in our county jail. So right now, Daniel, if you can tell us a little bit about what's going on at the Tarrant County Jail, what is currently going on with our sheriff?
Yeah, thank you, Pam, and Cindy for speaking that power. Again, gracias to everyone who decided to take some time out of your night and join us for our town hall over such a critical opportunity to fight back against mass incarceration and deportation right here in our very own county. My name is Daniel Garcia Rodriguez. Fort Worth and Tarrant County is where I call home, and I am so excited to work collectively with such amazing people in an effort to shine light on the role the sheriff plays in our community, and also to critically discuss how Sheriff Bill Wayburn has abused his power and impacted our neighbors. In 2016, Wayburn was able to get into office by running a nasty campaign driven by anti-immigrant rhetoric. He was quick to weaponize this rhetoric by bringing the 287G agreement to Tarrant County, a destructive instrument to target and separate our families. The program is widely known to suffer from poor oversight, lack of transparency, historically leading to racial profiling and abuse of power, and wasting already scarce local county resources on a racist program solely for the benefit of continuing his far-right agenda. Wayborn has consistently used racist rhetoric to justify the department's voluntary relationship with ICE. He is even proud to say that his department is separating families. In late 2019, Wayborn decided to be the spokesperson of the national deportation machine by going to Washington, D.C. to defend anti-immigrant policies and claim, and a quick disclaimer, this language is nasty and can be very traumatic. If we turn them loose or they get released, they're coming back to your neighborhood and my neighborhood. These shrunks will run over your children and they will run over my children. Not only is this language clearly racist, but it's extremely dangerous when a person in such a position of power talks this way about his county residents. It says everything we need to know about how Wayborn is currently running his department and why we need someone as sheriff who will foster productive relationships with our communities and respect the dignity of county residents. Wayborn's failed leadership and abuse of power as a sheriff has endangered the lives of real people. Since 2016, he has failed to ensure the safety and sanitary conditions within the jails. Under Wayborn, county jails during the COVID-19 pandemic have become death traps. Instead of working diligently to prevent a COVID-19 outbreak and protecting the valuable lives of those within the jails, his approach has been one of, and I quote, business as usual. And he has said, we are not going to let things slide by promising that law enforcement would take action when bad guys cross our path, continuing to use this language of us versus them, of communities being othered. Even after calls from the community to act with compassion to release nonviolent incarcerated individuals who were in high-risk categories, his inaction has led to the death of an incarcerated person after testing positive for COVID-19. Real leadership is needed to carry out the work of this department, while also ensuring the highest levels of transparency, accountability, good moral character, initiative for positive change, and respect for all persons, but especially those under the sheriff's care. Today, we have an opportunity to honor the lives of those who have been impacted by his unjust, improper malpractice of being a sheriff, madness, by holding his abuse accountable and electing someone who will, without a doubt, work to undo everything that Wayborn has done, but also to establish a structure that starts by respecting the humanity and dignity of all of our neighbors in Tarrant County. So it's important for us to collectively start working to not only build our community's power, but to make sure that these systems are held accountable. And this culture of over-policing, over-targeting, of separating our families, of targeting our families, is not perpetuated by those who hold elected positions. So that's just a little bit of the history of how Wayborn has abused his role as sheriff. And again, thank you to everyone who joined, and we'll continue this conversation of what is going on currently today within the sheriff's department and how people are being directly impacted under his failed leadership.
Ooh, thank you, Daniel, for sharing that with us, that history, that background. That's one of the things as we've ventured into this work, we've all been getting educated. But one of the things that I've noticed, and y'all can say what you've noticed as well, is that most people in Tarrant County view our current sheriff's department leadership in a positive light, and that is the persona that Sheriff Bill Wayborn presents, is that everything's going great and that he is the big bad sheriff in town to get all the bad guys and represent, good versus evil. But what we're finding out is everything is not okay. And that we have people in our local jail who are literally dying. And the current sheriff is doing everything in his power to cover that up and to not be accountable and to not be transparent. Just recently, um, there have been reports that have been made public, of deaths in custody at the Tarrant County Jail. Um, First, in April, a gentleman was on suicide watch at the Tarrant County Jail. He was supposed to be watched or checked on every 30 minutes. Because of the mismanagement of resources at Tarrant County Jail and in the Sheriff's Department under Bill Wayborn, the folks who were supposed to be watching him missed a check, and he ended up committing suicide on one of those missed checks. It shouldn't have happened, but it did because the resources are not there. There's overcrowding in the jail. And so there are not enough jailers on hand to adequately, make sure that everyone is doing what they need to be doing and that people who are on suicide watch aren't committing suicide, aren't dying by suicide. That should not have happened. So that was in April. And then just this past weekend, actually May 23rd, a 67-year-old man who was incarcerated at the jail died of COVID-19. This man is elderly. He's 67 years old. He had underlying health conditions, and he was in the jail pre-trial, meaning he had not been convicted of a crime. He had not been to trial. He was only there on, an arrest, a suspicion of DUI felony. DWI felony is what it's called. And we're going to be posting these articles in the comment section so you can take a look at these stories for yourselves. But this man falls directly into the category of people that organizers and activists and community members have been calling on the sheriff of Tarrant County to release from the jail because we are in the midst of a pandemic. We're in the midst of COVID-19, and we all know that people who have underlying health conditions and who are over the age of 50 are at a higher risk of contracting disease and of dying from the disease. And our sheriff literally refused to release this man into on a compassionate release basis. He refused to release elderly people. There was a statement issued from the Sheriff's Department when we made our list of demands to them, a statement that said, we are not releasing people, even if they are elderly, even if they are sickly, we are not releasing them until their time has been served or until they have gone through the proper channels in the court system. There are no get out of jail free cards just because of COVID for them. And now we have a gentleman who has died because of their unwillingness to release people who needed to be released. And then on May 18th, there is a woman who is has been incarcerated at Tarrant County Jail since at least February of this year. When she came into the jail, she was pregnant because her due date was on May 18th. So she was at least 4 or 5 months pregnant. She ended up, and she's also mentally disabled. She ended up giving birth in the Tarrant County Jail unattended this past weekend or the weekend before this. And we just got word today that the baby that she gave birth to unattended in the jail has died. That baby was taken off of life support on yesterday, and the baby is now deceased. Again, this didn't have to happen. In this past legislative session, a law was passed. I believe it's HB 1651 that was passed, and it went into effect on September 1st of 2019. And it states explicitly that if a woman goes into labor, she is supposed to be transported to the hospital. I mean, that's just basic. You know, the fact that we even had to have a law passed like that is ridiculous, but it just got passed and it was in play when this woman gave birth in the jail cell unattended. So, you know, these are the reasons, just a few of the reasons why we say we need a new sheriff now. And that's why we did this town hall. You know, we wanted to just really get the word out about what's really going on at the county jail and in the sheriff's department. A lot of people don't even know that they can elect their sheriff. You know, your sheriff is not appointed. He is, or she is, someone that you as the community members elect. And so we want to get the word out and let folks know about the power that we have coming up this November 3rd to get out and to vote for a new sheriff. And so now, Cindy, if you can kind of help us understand what we can do, like some action steps that we can take to get involved and make sure that we have a new sheriff in November.
Yes. So yes, the reality is that we have a sheriff currently that doesn't value human life, like you mentioned, Pam. Where we saw that the license was revoked just recently, and where the minimum standard is that they meet minimum requirements, right? And that's the current leadership that we have, or lack of leadership that we have at this point. So we want to invite everyone to be part of the change in electing a new sheriff, to bringing light and truth to the stories of what is really happening in Tarrant County. So we want us to join us in our fight for our collective liberation, change, and justice. The first thing that you can do is follow our new website, newsheriffnowtarrantcounty.org. You can follow, like, and share our social media pages and posts. Our handle is New Sheriff Now Tarrant County. We have social media, we have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and social media. We will be sharing our YouTube channel in the near future. And lastly, we also want to make sure, like I mentioned, that you are part of the process. So we want to invite you to volunteer with us. And you can join us by taking initiative and going to our New Sheriff Now Tarrant County website, where you can sign up to volunteer and be part of that change. We also want to make sure that people who are being directly impacted, that our community is heard. So we want to invite you to share your stories on our website or through our social media by using the hashtag Tarrant County Speaks or Tarrant Habla. So some of those are some ways in which our Tarrant County community can get involved, so that we can bring light to the reality of what is happening in our Tarrant County jail. And so we can ensure that in November, we do have a new sheriff that is elected.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing those action steps with everyone. And thank you too for bringing up, you know, a huge point that I left out was that the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office has had its state license revoked this week. Okay, actually on May 21st. And today that license was reinstated. And the reason that was given for revoking that license was because of a death in custody. But as we've mentioned already, there have been a number of deaths in custody. So we're not exactly sure which death that was for. But I know another action step that everyone can take is to contact the Texas Commission on Jail Standards. Okay. If you Google the Texas Commission on Jail Standards, we're going to drop it in the comments as well. But contact them and file a complaint. I just filed one before this broadcast, filed a complaint with them. Their executive director, his name is Brandon Wood. Contact Brandon Wood. When you call, it'll give you a prompt to put in the name. Contact Brandon Wood and let him know, hey, there are in custody deaths going on at the Tarrant County Jail. They are not releasing people who are sick, who are elderly. Let them know that this jail is overcrowded, it is understaffed. We have a whole list of demands of issues that are happening at the Tarrant County Jail. We'll also post that in the comments. But please contact the Texas Commission on Jail Standards and let them know that Tarrant County Jail is incompliant and Sheriff Bill Wayburn is not leading in the manner that he should. And we need a new sheriff now. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If we have any questions, let's see, do we have any questions from Facebook? Okay, so, and this is open, Daniel and Cindy, if y'all want to jump in at any time. Who is running? That is a very good question. We can't have an election if nobody is running. So thank goodness someone is running. There is a Democratic contender for this office, and his name is Vance Keys. He is running for sheriff, and he is a reform candidate. He's a candidate that aligns with the values that we've talked about today: transparency, real leadership, real reform, and real safety. He lines up with all of those values. And one thing that I really like about Vance Keys is that he has already said that when he is elected, we haven't talked about this today, but when he's elected, he will end the 287G program. First day in office. That'll be his first order of business. And 287G is something that we're going to talk about in a future town hall, but it is a program that most definitely contributes to mass incarceration and to these unsafe conditions that we've talked about today. So Vance Keys, please check him out. He's on Facebook. He's also at vancekeys.com, I believe, online. So do we have any more questions?
And adding to that, like, it's critical for the community, for our community, to know how Tarrant County is really transitioning. Tarrant County used to be a stronghold for bigoted elected officials who consistently perpetuate these kind of policies and practices. And we're transitioning as demographics shift, as voting patterns shift. Today, it is most important and the greatest opportunity for us to start restructuring what these electoral patterns are and who is voting. So throughout this campaign, we're going to be talking to people who have historically been ignored by campaigns and include them into the electorate, because today, Tarrant County is shifting to be more reflective of the values of our communities and to a system that more closely listens to the issues that matter to us. The Hill recently named Tarrant County as one of the most important counties in the country, defining what the outcome of the 2020 election will look like. So this is our greatest opportunity to elect someone within that role that's really going to center the protection and dignity of people in Tarrant County first, and stop this nasty, divisive, hate-centered politics that Wayborn has ran on and continue to perpetuate through the policies and practices that he has put forth within our county jails and within his positional role as someone who's an elected official who always is more than grateful to speak for the Trump administration and back the policies that directly target our most vulnerable communities in Tarrant County and in the nation. He's become a Joe Arpaio ×2 kind of person. And it's important to know that this individual, worse than Joe Arpaio, is in Tarrant County, is in our very own community, is in our backyard in Fort Worth and Arlington and the different cities that make up our county. So it's important for us, if you're frustrated about the deportation machine in our country, if you're frustrated about mass incarceration, the mistreatment of people within jails, it's important for us to start actively working to chop off these tentacles of the system of mass incarceration and deportation. And the sheriff's department is one of those tentacles. So getting rid of Wayborn will transition how we look at when it comes to campaigns centered on collective power and people coming together to not only hold the system accountable, but really reimagine what public safety can look like centered on people.
Right. Thank you, Daniel. That's so important. We're at 6:30 now. I just want to go ahead and get us wrapped up and look, unless we have any more pressing questions. So one more question. Can the sheriff just release people? So there are things that the sheriff can do to decarcerate. The sheriff can release people on good time. If they've haven't had any kind of infractions or anything like that, he could choose to release them. The sheriff can also advocate for the release of people that 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 the sheriff's office knows are not a threat to the community. All the people, the categories that we name, people who are elderly, people who are sick, women who may be pregnant, folks who have served a majority of their sentence, who only have a few months left. He can compile this list and work with the district attorney and work with the criminal court judges to work with defense attorneys and prosecutors to make sure that these people are released expeditiously so that they are not, put in harm's way unnecessarily. And not just because of conditions that those people may be in, but because if you have so many people in the jail, it is impossible to social distance. It is absolutely impossible. And it's really suggested that you get your jails down to half, 50%, to be able to adequately social distance. And we are at 80% right now in Tarrant County Jail. As a matter of fact, we have ballooned almost over 300 incarcerated people since the beginning of COVID. Not since the beginning of COVID, but since the beginning of March, I believe. Numbers were going down at the beginning, and the sheriff was touting, "Oh, we're getting letting people go home, and we've released this many people." But since that time, the numbers have gone back up. So that is a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us, for joining New Sheriff Now Tarrant County. This is a team effort. You are a part of us. We want you to get involved, like Cindy said, and gave you all of those great ways to get involved. Go to our website. But thank you for joining our first town hall. Please share this video. We'll be posting it a little bit later on YouTube, so you can share it with folks who may not have Facebook. Look out for our next town hall. We'll be sharing more about this movement for a new sheriff now, and we'll have more stories from our community. We actually had someone who was supposed to join us tonight, but they weren't able to. But every town hall that we have, we really want to endeavor to have people from our community, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, share about the interactions and the experiences that they've had with the current sheriff and at the Tarrant County Jail. So we want to hear from you. Please share your story on our website as well. All right, so we deserve a new sheriff now, and with your help, we will have one come this November. So thank you so much for tuning in. Good night, everyone.